Hi, I'm Kara Payson, an adoptive mom from Pasco, Washington. My husband and I knew very early on in our marriage that we wouldn't have biological children of our own. I had had a baby in a previous marriage that was born with a massive heart defect and died 27 hours after he was born. And although the risk was small, that was just a risk that neither one of us wanted to take. So we knew our family would be made through adoption. And it wasn't a foreign concept to us either. We both have a sister that's adopted. So we'd been married about 3 years, and it was June. And every time I read the Bible or prayed, I heard, it's time to adopt. It's time to adopt. So I took it to Steve and I said, this is what I'm hearing. And he said, I really like our vacations. I just don't think I'm ready for a baby yet. Which is totally fair, right? That's fair. I'm like, okay. Well, then I kept reading my Bible and praying, and every time I kept hearing, it's time to adopt, it's time to adopt, but with increasing intensity. I took this back to Steve, and he said, okay, yes, this is definitely what we need to do. So we went about trying to find, or starting our adoption process. We decided on an adoption agency and then did everything that you have to do to be approved to adopt, which is immense. Like, it's just a long list, right up to and including being fingerprinted by the FBI. I kid you not. So we did all the things, but we were on their books and on their website for birth moms to see by October. And then we wait. And the waiting game is probably the worst. We expected at least a 2-year wait. That's the average. Yeah, 2 years. So imagine our surprise when in March we got a call that not only had a birth mom chosen us, but she already had the baby. And we needed to go pick up the baby in 3 days. We had nothing. Remember, it was a 2-year wait. We were gonna get some stuff, but no big deal. Yeah, you can get a lot done in 3 days, including buying a car with the right incentive. We got it all done, got all the way there. And then there was a really sad misunderstanding, and our birth mom didn't know we were planning to take custody. So we had to give Taya back and wait another week. Let me tell you, that was one really long drive home, like buckets of tears. I can't even tell you. And there were so many things that had to happen in that week, including her being in front of a judge to sign her rights away. And I just didn't see how it could possibly happen. All the meanwhile, she still has her. But a week later, we drove back up there, met her, and took custody of her. All the things happened. It was an incredible relief and overjoying and overwhelming. We spent a week in the hotel with a newborn, and if you've never done that, it's really awesome. You should give it a try. It was great. But once we got home and we had the time to kind of just take a deep breath and think about things, we realized that oh gosh, it makes me cry every time. From the time God started telling me it's time to adopt, our birth mom was pregnant with our child. That was an amazing thing for us to know and to be able to see God's hand at work. Okay. I had a tissue just in case. All right. So there are lots of ins and outs for adoption. And I could go through those, but honestly, every family is different. Every adoption is different. It depends on the state that you're in. It depends on the country you're in. So there's just a lot of different changes. So I want to focus on the things that all adoptions have in common and how you can love and support them. And I'm still crying. I'm really sorry. Okay, drink of water too. That'll help. Okay, got it. Okay, so a few things they have in common. They take a long time. We waited 5 months. That's kind of unheard of. Typically, it's a 2-year process. So for someone waiting to be matched with a birth mom, it's just a waiting game. One of the things that I loved the most was I got a t-shirt when we were waiting, and it said pregnant on paper. And I loved that because we were waiting for a baby. There was just no baby bump on me. So one of the things that's been added to the printable is Stephanie made one that says, congratulations, you're pregnant on paper. And it's a great way to be able to support a couple that's going through adoption, or a family. By the way, there are people who adopt more than one child. I will also tell you, it's a roller coaster of emotions. Everything from having your home study done, I cleaned every corner of my house into the closets. By the way, when he came to look, just a side note, he came to look and he poked his head around a corner, yep, and it was good. And I'm like, no, it's clean. Go in there and check. It's all clean. Yeah, he didn't care. So that was just the home study. And then of course we got her, but then we had to give her back. And that's just our story. Other people have way more heartbreaking stories. And adoption can be cruel. The process can be cruel. So you want to love on them as much as you can. Another thing they all have in common, every adoption has a final court hearing. We had one as well. We took Taya into court and signed all the papers that we had to sign. I think we had to take an oath to something. I can't remember now. And finalize her adoption. We have some really adorable pictures of Taya on the judge's lap holding gavel. So it was a little baby. It was super cute. So those are some things that all adoptions have in common. They all have those elements. There's also some things that you should never do if you want to support a family of adoption. So while I have you here, I'd like to make a few public service announcements on behalf of adoptive families everywhere. Okay, ready? I'm gonna wipe my nose again. It's so sad. Okay, number one, please don't patronize adoptive parents and tell them you're so sorry you can't have children of your own. Well, Taya is my child. She's most definitely my own child. What they mean, of course, is that you couldn't have biological children. And that's not even true. For us, that wasn't true. We could get pregnant. We were making a choice not to. And families have many reasons for making that choice. And now my nose won't stop running. Number two, don't ask about the child's real parents. This is just one that a lot of people do. We are their real parents. Nobody else is cleaning the puke off the carpet in the middle of the night. If there's somebody else who's supposed to be doing it, I want their number because they're missing out on a lot of opportunities. We are their birth families. And you'll hear, here's a good example. Somebody says, does her real mom have brown hair? Well, I'm her real mom and I have brown hair, so yes. And they say, well, no, you know what I mean. No, I actually don't know what you mean. And what they really mean and what you want to say is to say their biological parents or their birth families, if you have to. And you may think that's splitting hairs, and it's not a big deal. I promise you, I've met a lot of adoptive families, and this is one that drives us all bonkers. It's offensive and insulting to us. Additionally, do you really need to ask anything about their birth families? Part B of that is when I say don't ask about their real families, there are a lot of sensitivities around why children aren't with their birth families. There are legal issues. There are alcohol and drugs and all kinds of things. It can be an incredibly sensitive topic that they may not want to talk about, especially if their child is there, but they may not just even want to talk about it or have any part of it at all. So I really encourage you, just don't ask about the birth family. It's a good call. All right, number 3. You can ask where our child is from. We've been asked that numerous times. It's always kind of funny when we say Idaho, like she wasn't. They're like, oh. Don't assume that everyone has an international adoption. They don't. There are domestic adoptions as well. So you can ask the question, I don't know anybody who's offended by that. However, don't belittle, demean, or question why that decision was made. So for instance, when we were trying to decide whether we wanted to do an international adoption or a domestic adoption, we had people who were really upset with us that we weren't adopting internationally because there were babies that needed to be saved from other countries. Fair enough. Right. But then we had people on the other side that were really upset that we weren't going to adopt babies that were in the United States that could be saved. The bottom line is there are children everywhere that need families. And there are a whole lot of reasons why you would choose to go international or domestic. Please don't question those choices. I beg of you. All right, number 4. This is a big one. Under no circumstances should you suggest or insinuate in any way that adoptive parents don't love their children as much as people with biological children. For one, I'm pretty sure anybody can understand why that might be insulting, but it's also just not true. I forget my daughter's adopted, which you may think is just bizarre, but really, how often do you think about your birth? How often do you think about giving birth to your child? Probably not that much. So I forget she's adopted. To suggest that I don't love her as much, that's just crazy. But let me give you a scenario because there's a story to go with it. When we adopted her, I had taken 6 months off work, and then I went back part-time. And it was my first day back to work, and a very well-meaning woman came by and asked how I was doing. And I said, yeah, I'm good. It's a good day. She's like, really? Are you sure? And I said, yeah, I just did like a dump and run, right? I like dropped her off and ran before I could even think about it. And then here I am. She goes, well, that's not normal. Most women have a really hard time leaving their babies. Do you think it's because you didn't carry her? Now, on a good note, I didn't punch her. I mean, this is the good news. But I beg of you, anything even resembling that, don't do it. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. There are a lot of things you can do to support adoptive families, up to and including dropping off a package of diapers. I don't know any family that doesn't need that. But encouraging them, sending them cards. There are a few sentiments in the principle. One is Happy Gotcha Day. One is Happy Adoption Day. And then Congratulations, You're Pregnant on paper. All of those are fabulous cards to send to your friends who are adopting or who have adopted. So we're 14 years into this. My daughter's 14. There are still things that come up. Encouraging notes are always appropriate for any adoptive family or really any parent. With a 14-year-old daughter, they need a lot of cards and love. Just saying. It's a rough age. It's a rough age. Thank you for listening to me. I hope this has given you a lot of great information. All right, bye-bye. Hello. Okay, so you've heard all about adoption, and now how about a card and a way to encourage someone who's adopting? This is great. I think I said in the video, I had a t-shirt that said pregnant on paper, because everybody, if you're having a baby, you have a baby bump and they know you're pregnant. But if you're adopting, they don't know you're pregnant. So I thought this was a really fun card and a really easy one. All right, so let's see, let's put this over here. We'll park that one over there. So this is a standard card base, cut at 8.5 and scored at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to use my bone folder to get a good crease. And I have a piece of Highland Heather cardstock that's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I have 4 pieces of DSP. 2 are 1 7/8 by 3 1/8, and the other 2 are 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. So really easy way to do this. This is a great way to be able to put out a lot of cards if you're sending out a bunch of cards. I think I'm gonna go with this side. And put it on just like that. I like liquid glue. That's not what everybody loves, but I do enjoy it. And then I encourage you to lay out your pieces of designer series paper on here so that you make sure when you go to glue them, one, that they all fit, but you know the margins. All right, so we know it's about there. Now we can glue these in place super quickly, like so. I like to do the 2 bigger pieces first. That way things are lined up. And I can make the little pieces fit where they're supposed to, now that they're in the way. All right, last 2 pieces. Like so. The nice thing about using liquid glue is it gives you that half a second of wiggle room. I will also tell you the trick and tip I have for liquid glue is less is more. You don't need a ton of it. When you have a ton of it, it oozes out and it's a mess and it's on your fingers. Nobody likes that. All right, so I used the printable and printed it out. Whoops. And then use the Tasteful labels to cut out the sentiment. Just like that. And I'm gonna put this on with some dimensionals. And you can, whoops, just get it right in the middle. Apparently I can't do straight. Okay, here we go. Did I get that straight? Almost. Yeah, we're gonna leave it. Okay. Then I used our flower punch to punch out 2 flowers in Highland Heather. And it's also gonna take a couple of, we have the leaves here too. So those we can just toss. And I'm gonna use my bone folder. Oh, there's another leaf. My bone folder, just to pull on these a little bit, not a lot, just to give them a little bit of life. You don't see too many flat flowers in nature. Lots of curls and bends. All right, this guy needs a little help. All right. Then I'm going to glue this guy in place. We're gonna put him, about there. That looks good. And then the little guy, we're gonna stick right here. All right, we have our flower. Now I'm gonna tie our bow. I tell people, well, I used to tell people, I guess I still do, tie it just like you're tying a shoelace, right? Don't overthink it. But then I realized, and I don't know how I didn't know this, but everybody ties their shoes differently. There's no one way to do anything, including tying shoelaces. All right, so wrap this guy back up. And I'm going to use a glue dot to stick the ribbon on, like so. Well, that end's flying up a bit. It'll flatten out over time. And then one last touch I'm using some of our Janelle gems. I'm using the, I don't remember what color those are all of a sudden. We're just gonna go with green. I'm gonna put these in the middle of each of the flowers. So it gives it just a little bit of sparkle. And there you have a very quick and easy card that you can make for somebody who's adopting. All right, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.